Good afternoon. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't we start off with hearing about what district you're running for, and then feel free to introduce yourself, talk about your background, and how you feel that that's positioned you for office.
Sure. So I'm running for the House District 32, state representative for House District 32. That district has recently been redrawn again. It includes parts of Akron and most of the southern suburbs of Akron. So it includes Ellet and Goodyear Heights. It includes southern sections of Kenmore and Firestone Park. And then it includes all the southern suburbs. So it includes uh, Greene, New Franklin, Coventry, Clinton, Lakemore, Springfield, and also Mogador in Summit County. Um, my background is that of a local government public service background. So I got my first introduction to local government at a young age. So I ran for Greene City Council when I was 23, and I got elected by 52 votes and served in that capacity for 10 years until I was termed out. That's really where my passion for public service began. I was like any other 23-year-old, struggling to find purpose, struggling to figure out what my passion was, what I wanted to do for a career with the rest of my life. And I didn't know the answers to all those questions, but I knew that I wanted to be useful to my community, and I knew I wanted to be impactful in any way I could. So local government seemed like a good place to start, and I did. I discovered my sense of purpose, if you will. So in addition to those 10 years on Greene City Council, I also have more than 16 years experience in community development. So my full-time job has been in administering government programs, assistance programs to disadvantaged communities, including elderly, disabled, low income. And primarily, most of that time has been spent with the Summit County Executive's Office in the Department of Development, in community development. I also did several years with the Stark County Community Action Agency in Stark County. Um, that's kind of my professional background. I don't see myself ever doing anything outside of public service. It's really what I want to do and how I choose to be useful and an asset to my community. The reason I decided to run for this seat in particular um, revolves around my community. When this district was redrawn and I looked at the new map of the district, I truly saw the community that raised me. They say it takes a village. This district was my village, and I thought that it would be a good place for me to take my local government experience, my, at this point, 20 years of local government experience, and put it to use for the people of Ohio and the people of this district.
Thank you for that. At this point, we're just at the time of this recording, we're just a few weeks out from the election. So talk to us a little bit about your campaign, how it's been going, what has response been like? Generally speaking, what's the current state of the race?
Sure. The campaign started for me before primary season. So it was the filing deadline to get into this race was in December. So this has been a campaign since December, and I have made it a point to be the person that is at every community event I can possibly be at. And the reason that that's so important to me is because I think whoever is the state representative, I think communication is crucial. You know, most people are busy raising their families, focused on their career, trying to get that one vacation a year. They're doing normal life stuff. And they're not thinking about or paying attention to every bit of legislation that comes through the state government. That's to be expected. That's normal. And I think it's important that whoever's in these roles makes a commitment to communicate with the local community, because that's the job. And if we don't have someone doing that, then you can't be surprised when voters, everyday citizens, feel like their elected officials, are out of touch. And and frankly, some of them are. So, for me, the purpose of starting the campaign early back in December and going all the way through the summer was really to do that outreach, communicate with the local communities, communicate with local leaders. I've spent hours speaking with the mayors of local communities, people on local city council, and adding to those already existing relationships that I've developed over the last 20 years. Because I think that's the measure of success in this role as a state representative is, are you able to provide that level of communication, and do your constituents feel like you're in touch with the needs? So that's really what I focused on. It's been a long, hard campaign. But I think at least my input that I'm getting from voters when I'm knocking on their doors and when I'm meeting them at events is that they appreciate that. They appreciate that outreach and that commitment to communication.
Great, thank you for that. So through this recording, you're speaking to a regional business community across the greater Akron-Canton region. As such, we're naturally interested in hearing what you think are the top issues facing our economy, good or bad, and how you would engage in them. So with that said, from your perspective, what are really the top 2 or 3 issues facing the economy, or maybe even more specifically, the business community, and how would you engage in them?
That's a great question. It's important that Ohio is a business-friendly state. That's without question. And after 16 years, first 8 years with Governor Kasich and 8 years or almost 8 years with Governor DeWine, I think Ohio is a fairly business-friendly state. But I think the major problems, at least when I'm out there talking to small business owners, revolve around finding qualified, skilled labor. And I think one of the most effective things that local state government can do for the small business community is build that workforce, build that future workforce for the next generation. It's a overarching idea of building that workforce, but there are major components to that the state can have truly positive impacts on that would help small businesses meet their labor needs and make Ohio more competitive for other businesses that might want to build or relocate here that need that skilled workforce. So, just off the top of my head, it starts with our youngest learners, by making an investment in early childhood education and universal pre-K. Not only does that get kids ready for school and set them up to be successful, and multiple studies have shown that that's the most impactful thing that we can do to improve their outcomes in later grades, but it also makes childcare more affordable for working families, which is a huge component to whether or not people can go work full-time versus part-time, is whether or not they can afford childcare. Additionally, I think making vocational education and apprenticeships programs, particularly in partnership with the local trades, that is a huge factor. My background in community development has involved working with the trades, specifically residential construction. And there is incredible demand out there for skilled tradespeople, electricians and carpenters and plumbers and HVAC technicians. Not every kid in Ohio is going to go on to get a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a professional degree. Those are all incredibly important. And Ohio is blessed to have institutions of higher education that are incredible. But we also need to provide a pathway for the kids who are not going to go that path and provide them an opportunity that's going to let them afford to stay in Ohio and build a life here and start a family here. And that's where the demand is. Just as a personal aside, and I don't want to get into the weeds too much. My father, growing up, was a local community dentist. And when I was young, I was a kid, and I remember there was a shortage in dental hygienists. Across the community, Northeast Ohio, there weren't enough dental hygienists because there was only one school in Ohio producing dental hygienists. So the local dental associations got together with the state lawmakers, and they put together a public-private partnership that created the School of Dental Hygiene at Kent Stark. And that institution, that school is still there to this day, and it's one of their most popular programs. That's just a small example, but that's the type of coalition, the public-private partnerships, that I really think the state needs to take leadership on to meet the needs of the employers and where they are.
So you mentioned a few key areas of focus there from your perspective. If you're elected, maybe go a little bit deeper on what your plans would be, or share with us where you'd like to spend most of your time and attention.
So, my time and attention, honestly, that workforce development component, I think that's the most impactful way the state can improve things for local businesses. I look at all of these things as investments. So whether we're talking about cutting taxes or instituting or eliminating regulation or investing in certain areas with state funds, all of that is a balancing act between the investment to the benefit. And if we're going to make investments, whether it's increasing spending in one area or providing tax cuts in one area, it's, all of those things have to be evaluated based on what is their societal benefit. So I'm not opposed to any innovative or outside the box thinking. I think it all should be considered, on a case-by-case basis as to what is the benefit, what is the investment, and is that the right path for Ohio moving forward. So, I'm open-minded. I'm a out-of-the-box thinker, but being in local government as long as I have, I'll be the first one to tell you, not all government programs have the intended impact that we want them to have. But at the same time, I have seen the transformative power of local government to do good. And it comes from, what I believe is good government. Currently, I can't say that the state legislature, in my opinion, is demonstrating great government. I don't think a supermajority on one side of the aisle or the other is what delivers that. I think good government comes when there's an incentive for consensus, and I don't see that right now coming from the State House. My goal going into the State House would be to provide, that consensus-minded approach, working across the aisle, working with all stakeholders involved to deliver solutions for both small businesses and the people of Ohio.
in addition to being a regional chamber, we're also a regional economic development organization, and we often look to the state to be a partner in a variety of activities. You mentioned your role in community development at the local level. You're now running for a role in state government. Generally speaking, what do you view the state government's role to be, or what should it be in regional and local economic development work?
So, the state has limited oversight in some areas. So, obviously education is a huge component of what the state's power can oversee and what its funding can do. So I think a lot of the economic development tools that I would like to see used revolve around, education and improvements to education. I'm glad to see investment in commercial activity, but I think one of the things that we're starting to see coming out of Columbus and the current efforts, because there is a lot of improvement in commercial activity, but it tends to be focused in one or two or three parts of the state. And I think there are a lot of local communities that are not seeing that same type of growth and investment. So, for example, we've got a ton of growth going in around the Columbus area, which is to be expected. They've got a lot of community development and economic development funds going in to help with a lot of the tech sector and the chip manufacturing that's going on down there, which is providing incredible demand for trades, as I mentioned earlier, and the state, which is a great thing. But what's happened is we don't see that same level of investment all across the state. So, Akron, for example, just announced a great partnership in funds that it's receiving for its polymer cluster, which is incredible. But, there's parts of Cuyahoga County and Southern Ohio that are not seeing that level of investment. So I think it's important when we're looking at economic development, we've got to find ways to make sure these smaller communities aren't left behind.
Thank you for that. So there's a general feeling out there with many in the business community that the legislature has spent a good amount of time on issues that are either more socially oriented or just plainly controversial, instead of focusing more on economic and or business oriented issues. Given your background, the work you've done in the community, would you be someone that we could count on to encourage a more business focused agenda next session?
So first of all, I 100% agree that the current supermajority in Columbus has, and I would almost say intentionally, used polarizing social issues to gin up their base and to avoid having to deliver actual solutions for Ohioans. I would absolutely be someone that would try to take the approach of a more consensus-minded and of more of a problem solver. So, unfortunately, this goes back to what I mentioned previously. I don't believe good government comes from supermajorities on either side of the aisle, and I believe that we need to require our legislators to be more consensus minded. And, with the current partisanship in Columbus, it's going to take voters at the ballot box sending that message. I truly believe that.
Any closing remarks or final thoughts?
I really want to thank you and the greater business community for allowing me this opportunity to reach out. I do believe that my years of local government experience have me uniquely positioned to be a consensus-minded, reasonable person that would be able to deliver results and be a problem solver for the people and local businesses.
Great. Well, thank you very much.